Yo, what's good, folks? The golden voice that you're hearing right now is none other than the one and only Truth Be Told. You know, positive is where I live. And the podcast that you're listening to right now is The E.I.T.H.R by my boy, D-Cal, my OG. So give it up and listen in. I love y'all. Mwah.
What up, what up, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, this is, are we on? Looks like we are. Hey, this is D-Cal, host of the E.I.T.H.R podcast. How you guys doing?
Here we go, a show to slowly unfold some views that's in the news that make us uncomfortable. You never heard this podcast is broadcast in contrast, a popular opinion. Stop that, assuming that you knew every view that's brewing, so keep it moving. If you got any sense, then you're welcome to put two so in. Listen in, relax, chill, take a breather, and let D-Cal put y'all onto the ether.
What up, everybody? It's your boy D-Cal here at the E.I.T.H.R, coming straight from the GNSHQ. Man, what's good with everybody? It's been a minute, and yo, I have a lot great progress to share with you guys. But we're going to share over time. So, if you're new to the E.I.T.H.R podcast, welcome. And if you are a avid listener from the podcast from the beginning, welcome back. So we're coming from the GNSHQ here in Northern California. And we're going to go ahead and do this with the social media thing. Now that social media is back up, apparently it's Super Tuesday, it's election day. And it was the perfect time for Meta, however you want to pronounce it, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads to have gone down worldwide. That was interesting, Chief. It was a great time. Personally, for me, I didn't mind it because I'm doing my best to distance myself from being attached to my phone as much as possible and keep myself physically busy with everything. So it was great for me, but I literally felt bad for the people who are still attached to their devices. So I was kind of like, oh man, I need to get out and make fun of you motherfuckers who is stressing right now that you can't get on your phone and talk crap to people in your trash talking groups and your comic groups and all the other groups that I'm associated to myself. But at the same time, I don't take conversations on the internet with complete strangers in different continents and time zones seriously. So I was going to go out and make fun of y'all. But by the time I grabbed my keys and got everything situated, I got a message that everything was back up. And so I decided, you know, let me jump on the podcast real quick and say hi to everybody. Kind of give them a holler. So that's what we're doing here. This is episode number 1. I lost count, man. It's crazy on what episode we're here. We're doing it. Post on social media. The E.I.T.H.R, THEEITHR. You can follow it also on Twitter. You can follow it also on Threads. I would like to share with you guys the TV channel. It's a very own streaming platform where your boy controls the content. It's me. Hi, nice to meet you. GNSETV.com. GNSETV.com. It's a free subscription, costs you absolutely nothing but time. Fill out a profile and enjoy the content that's on there. So what we're going to be doing with the GNSETV is something different, and I'm explaining to that on the other side of the break. But like always with the podcast, what we do is we start everything off with shout outs, and we start everything off with inspirational, motivational. And I literally want to give a shout out to the Russell Wilson. Because on the grapevine, the Denver Broncos are going to be releasing him. And I'm going to put it to you, as a Raider fan, Russell Wilson sucks. He was a Seagull, Seattle Seahawk, for those who don't know that. And now he's a donkey, Denver Broncos, for those who don't know that. Well, because of the contract dispute he was having this past season with monies the team did or did not want to pay him, it seems as if he's going to be released sometime within the next day or three, most likely today. That's at least what is on social media. And I'm going to give a shout out to him. Like I said, as a football fan, as a Raider fan, he sucks. As a football fan, I really don't appreciate how they've been treating my man on and off the field. It's just not a good look. So shout out to him. Hopefully he'll go to a home where they're going to be treating him the way he needs to be treated, because he damn sure deserves it. And we'll be putting him on a platform inspirational, motivational. Don't tell them, show them. Don't tell people your business, because believe it or not, when it comes down to it, everybody wants to see you win. It's just certain people don't want to see you win before them or win a bigger prize than they got. So what you want to do is you want to make sure the news is broadcasted through the actions that were taken for your success. That's what you would really want to do. Keep quiet, stay off the radar. When they see you, let the actions speak louder than any of the words you could have used to describe. Be louder. That's something that I have done, and on the other side of this break, I'm going to explain to you what exactly it is that I mean, and you'll kind of get a better picture of why the loudest ones in the room tend to be the weaker ones in the room. But we're gonna address that when we address that. So again, it's your boy D-Cal for the E.I.T.H.R podcast from the GNS HQ here in Northern California. So we're gonna get a word from the sponsor right quick, and then we're gonna get right back into what it is I would like to talk about today. So just sit tight, we'll be right back.
Most t-shirts are simply cool to look at and or look in. Well, so are ours, but ours also aim to send a message. They aim to put a name on obstacles that once stood in your way and aren't there anymore. Struggles that you turned into successes and crushed. You made it look easy. Shop at mile.today. Mile.today. www.mile.today. A GNS collection.
Right, folks. One of the reasons I want to podcast after I said I was going to be more active on a podcast a few weeks ago is sometimes, life takes turns, and sometimes those turns are extremely sharp, and you have to change course accordingly. With the podcast, each episode, you hear the little ditties in the background, right? So these are productions of GNS Entertainment that we use to kind of help digest the content of the podcast and what we're doing, right? So what happened is, as I'm in the studio, conducting, producing, whatever you want to call it. I had this epiphany. I was like, man, you know what? We dope if I made an album. So what happened was, your boy's in the verge of doing his own album. So it's going to be a instrumental CD at first. So there's going to be very minimum, if at all, very minimum lyrical content. And it's more so the series is something that I produce. You can also find this track on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube Music, on Google, some other platforms I can't think off the top of my head. But you can also go to the Instagram page, GNS Entertainment, and it's spelled exactly at the end. GNS. You'll have links where you could stream 3 of the tracks that have been produced. So there's This Is What It Is. No, I'm sorry. It's Late Night Commute, Animal Instinct, and this one, Can't Be Serious. You can find those links in the GNS Entertainment Instagram profile. And when you type in the profile, the profile picture is of a record that's kind of displayed the album cover of what I'm going to be using when it drops in April. So that's kind of what's going on. And the other thing is with GNS Entertainment, SETV, we're going to be doing is we're going to be turning that into a stream. So any musicians who are in the search of a platform to put your music content out to the world, we're going to be opening up that platform so that way you have the ability to have that as well. And so GNS ETV is also available on Roku. So you can search for it on your Roku account, see the video content that's on there, or you can listen to the music, which is going to be streaming up within the next week. So still working on that, but by the time next week comes, I'll do an episode of the podcast and kind of give you guys a green light that it's there. But I wanted to put it out there that it is in the works. Also, we had to do some rearranging for the HQ, if you will. So we moved into a larger spot where this is not only going to be where we conduct the podcast from, but it's also going to be where we do the filming from. So we're in the process of doing an animation series, which is something that was being worked on already. But because of location, it gave limited space. Now we're where we're at right now. Things are kind of getting lined up with the music. So we're going to have filming done here as well. So it's not going to be on a grand scheme of like your like Disney or Sony. It's not going to be there. Sorry, I'm not there just yet. But it's going to be enough for me to put on my own platform, and eventually, when it grows to be what I expect it to be, then it might come listen, come see what your boy's working on. So that's kind of what's in the mix. We got the film thing we're getting back into. Now we have a bigger space. We got the music, the album dropping in the near future. So that's that. Obviously we have the Mile clothing line, mile.today. We have the RTS shoe line, runthestreets.net. We have GNS promotions going on. And I understand in the beginning, we talked about do things where, don't talk about it, just do it, as inspiration, motivational. So it kind of ties into the thing I want to talk about today as well. Anyone who knows me in my tight circle, in my small circle of people that I have, I don't like giving announcements of what it is that I'm doing. I don't like talking about what it is that I do, while at the same time, while reaching milestones, I want to share with people. The issue is, in today's world, we live in a world where some people take accomplishments or you're trying to belittle their effort. Again, you can't control what other people think, how other people feel. You can't control how other people are going to respond or react to what it is that you tell them. The only thing you can control is the intent of what it is that you're doing. So a lot of folks, and this was one of my pet peeves that I try to avoid, they talk about what they want to do as if they've done it already. Excuse me. Or they talk about what they're going to do as if it's already completed. Then when they see how much work needs to go into doing it, they have a problem and they stop doing it. That's one thing I want to make sure I never, ever did. Put the cart before the horse, as some people would say, right? So I'm very particular with who I share my information with, what information I share with them, how much I give them. And majority of that, honestly, truly, is me overthinking. But I rather think too much than think not enough. So if you guys have a goal that you want to achieve, best thing to do is to take action first. Start working on that goal. Start striving towards that goal. So by the time progress has been made on that goal, then you start talking to people about it. It becomes more of a, well, it's already in the works. That way, whatever type of response you get, you're that it won't process. If so, that's how that talks. I'm kind of, if you, and everything is, and it, and whatever, how is it right now? And it's accountability. Accountability is a huge thing a lot of people are afraid or they run from. Have you ever had a situation where you're being called out on something? Not talking about that person who doesn't like you. I'm not talking about that or those individuals. What I'm on is we're and there's no house for you. As if there's attacking you. Most of the time, that's the accountability of you internally saying, yeah, that's on me. And a lot of us, we hate that feeling because there's nowhere for us to pass the responsibility off to. We have to own it. We have to take it. We have to deal with it. We have to process it. And because of that, we get extremely defensive and we want to, quote unquote, attack people back, right? When you understand how to process accountability, those attacks don't feel like attacks. Those attacks then turn into reminders of, that's right. Thank you for that. It's like the saying goes, correct a wise man, he'll appreciate you for it. Correct a fool, he'll hate you for life. Right? Something along those lines. That's kind of how the saying goes. When you accept accountability for what you do and you get called out on something, it literally becomes, I did say that. Okay. Thanks. No, you're right. Okay. Cool. But certain people from certain environments, from certain areas, accountability is a threat. Because your whole thing is to, I guess the mindset is do whatever the hell I want to do, but at the same time take no responsibility for it. And that's where a lot of people bump heads, especially in relationships, right? Especially in relationships. Accountability is so foreign to a lot of people when it comes to relationships. None of them ever succeed, right? And the problem with accountability, and again, problem being subjective, is you have to mind your P's and Q's. You have to walk the talk that you talk about walking. So if you say you're a certain way, you have to maintain that way, right? It's not so much a front or a facade, but it's more of, hey, you sold us you were this way. You're not acting accordingly. What's the deal, right? You have to adjust yourself to either admit, yeah, I was lying. That's not who I am. Or thank you for the reminder. Again, you're not being attacked, you're being called out. And some people don't know how to maintain that. Again, especially in relationships. In relationships, I tell people, say, listen, the guy you see right now is the same guy you're going to see 6 months from now. I'm going to be the same person you see 6 years from now. And here's the reason why. I worked on myself for the past 10, 15 years. I'm still working on myself to the point where my opinions are my opinions. My position is my position. I know how to read the room. I understand how to communicate with people who might see things differently than I do. And I also know how to stay your friend if we do not agree, because I'm a grown-ass man. When it comes to relationships, a lot of people with accountability problems don't know how to make their partner happy. So in many cases, what they do is they do things that makes them happy and expect their partner to either follow suit or expect their partner to do what I do because this makes me happy, so therefore you need to do it. That's not always the best bet. Again, I know what I need in a relationship. I know what I want in a relationship. There's no need to get into a relationship with someone that can't provide what it is that I require. And that doesn't mean that I'm Mr. Know-It-All, or I'm Mr. Big Stuff, or I'm Mr. Big Shot, or you're not good enough for me. That's not the case. What it is, I know what makes me tick. I understand what makes me tick. I know me well enough. And it's not a maintenance thing for me. It's more of a psychological, mental, emotional thing. And I understand the traumas that I have, and I understand the damage that I got, and I understand the red flags that I may give. If you don't understand me, I know that much. So many people don't know themselves well enough to be able to articulate to a partner, listen, this is what makes me tick. And when your partner is telling you this is how they are, We live in a world where everyone's wearing masks and avatars. So they think this is who you say you are, but this is not who you really is. Or they're not paying any attention to you, because within 6 months, the personalities are completely opposite than where they were, right? And some people get in relationships thinking they can change the partner. I can make this person more. Communication is faulty in these relationships, right? If you know this about yourself, man, you need to be accountable, right? Who smoke? Who smokes because they're attractive, and you have. I'm gonna get them to stop smoking. That's not it. Because if they have no plans on quitting smoking, you can't make them smoke or make them stop smoking. I have also learned years ago, a person changed against their will is of the same opinion still. Meaning, if you give an ultimatum, which usually the person who gives ultimatums never ever really win. It never goes in their favor. But if you give a person an ultimatum and they concede to that ultimatum, now there's a chance there's a resentment in that relationship because you made them do something they didn't want to do. That's a difference between compromise, because it was a one-sided compromise. A compromise, as they say, is when both parties feels like they didn't get enough. Or both parties can sit back and settle and say, okay, I think we gave up enough and we got back enough, equally on both sides. Let's move on. That's a compromise. Some folks get in relationships and they have this belief, you appeal to me, but I don't need to appeal to you. Like, this is me and my soul. It's this woman and this man on this couch. And the caption of the top picture, and if you then together, here's the things about you that if you shouldn't be together. Have this belief, way catering, whether it's a friendship, whether it was an intimate, whatever the case may be. Accountability is understanding. If that's how you are, that's not going to make me happy. Okay? Or, okay, if that's what you are, get to that point. I need you to help. I was talking to the teacher this morning. We live in, if you don't know something, it's almost taboo or embarrassing to admit, I don't know this. I'm not familiar with this. Excuse me. Can you teach me this? In today's world, you get clowned and you'll get mocked for not knowing something while asking questions to learn about it. And that usually comes from people who are too scared to say they don't know it either. They just don't have the courage to admit it. But accountability, man, know yourself. Know who you are, right? If someone says, these are things that you've done that put me in this place, that put me in this space, right? The worst thing you can do is tell that person you didn't do that. One, you might not be aware of what you did because you do it so regularly. It's part of, quote unquote, part of your DNA. You might not see it as anything wrong, right? But the person who was bothered, hey man, they might have a track record of having people who have done shit like this to them, and they're sick and tired of it. They may have had a track record of people saying certain things, saying things in a certain way, saying things about fill in the blank. That, hey, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, man. One thing I've learned with traveling to different cities and different states, you can get 10 people lined up and say something. Those 10 people are going to hear that differently. Even though they heard the same exact thing at the same time, they perceive it differently. You have to understand each person speaks a different, and I'm using air quotes, they speak in a different language. And what I mean by that is tonality, how they perceive it, their interpretation. What does their history say about what you said? Because in the past experience, right? You can tell someone, shut up. And they understand you mean funny. You're being humorous. You're being a jokester. But then you might get people who were told to shut up by people in their past. That's a trigger for them. That might make someone have the impression you're controlling, you're demeaning, you're belittling. You have to understand who you're talking to. And a lot of us have this, I'm going to speak one way, and if you can't deal with it, that's on you. But those are also the same people that can't figure out why they don't get invited nowhere, why nobody wants to hang out with them, why no one really engages in conversations or anything with them. You have to understand your language ain't the only language people wants to speak. You have to learn how to speak back to them. It's called, again, accountability. Understand what the difference is between what you mean and how they take. Now, there's case by case for that. You can't necessarily walk around on broken glass and eggshells because you're saying something and you don't want to offend the world. That's a little bit different. That's an extreme. That's an extreme. But listen, there are women who I can say bitch to. They don't take offense to that. To them, it's no big deal. To others, fighting words. To some, that may create a completely violent uproar because of past experiences with people using that term. Some, you can only use it in an intimate setting. So you have to learn, even though we speak the same language, no, we don't. Take accountability and understanding what it is you can do to make the situation better for everybody else. There's a saying that says, perception is reality, right? I saw this video on social media the other day, and this guy was exactly spot on from my viewpoint. Perception is not reality. Perspective is reality. Because how I perceive reality, because the reality there's C. You can be the greatest singer in the world for family after when you're in. But how does everyone else perceive singer when they hear you hit those notes? You're trash. Okay? From that, not that good. Well, this is how the world looks at you. So therefore, this is the people have of you. Again, there's going to be someone who I can say, so, but who cares? That's not my problem. And that's fine. You're going to get back what you put out. So, put minimal people, minimal response to engagement. Same type of effort. That's just how it works. And again, not every single person has the same gauge. Some people are less patient. You have to learn how to read the room. That's going to take time. But accountability is something that everyone should be able to do every single day, every single moment throughout their life. Accountability for yourself, accountability for your partner, accountability your subordinates underneath your work, accountability for your superiors at work, accountability for everybody. Some people don't like getting called out because they get attacked. And in many cases, people do attack. So you have to understand the language of saying, listen, I'm not attacking you, I'm not attempting to feel a certain type of way. I'm just trying to draw attention to the fact that this is how it's supposed to be. This is what you said you are. The two aren't matching. I just want to bring to your attention there's some inconsistencies here. That's all that is. Also, people who are accountable were boring as hell in some cases. Because we understand the situations, we understand the circumstances, we understand what we're getting ourselves into. And so many problems we avoid and don't get into situations that will create issues. We tend to stay away from them. And that's boring for some people, right? Because it adds no excitement, no thrill. And, to each his own, right? I got for you today. So seemingly back up. Threads is back up. So I can't wait to hear everyone complain and gripe and wipe sweat from their brow because their Facebook is back active again. It's fucking hilarious. But that's the world we live in, man. Anyway, Decal here at the E.I.T.H.R podcast from the GNS HQ here in Northern California. Again, E.I.T.H.R. The E.I.T.H.R on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Threads. GNSETV.com. Sign for a subscription. It's free. Go ahead and make it happen. Shout out to Mile, MILE.TODAY. Just some shirts. Weather's changing. All right. GNS Entertainment, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. Peep out the music for the link. The album is going to be dropping sometime in late April. I'll keep you guys posted. Anyway, love y'all. Your boy, we out.
This is Krista from Sacramento, and you're listening to Decal on the E.I.T.H.R podcast.